Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today we're gonna check how to play with Rin. Rin is one of the strongest characters in the game, so let's test her very quickly, and analyze her skills. But before we start, don't forget to share, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Also, comment on what you want to see next. So, here we have Rin, who is a Suppress and Human type character. Suppress and Human are two pretty good attributes, but they don't have great synergy with the color blue. Even so, Rin has some blue builds that we're going to check. And as you can see, mine is level 87. It is already maxed out. And very quickly, a quick analysis on the skills. First we have Raika. Raika is the launching attack, which performs a series of airborne attacks after lifting an enemy and leaps up into the air. As usual, this is not going to be useful on challenging content. You can use it in PvP, yes, you can use it on dailies, but it is not ideal. Among all the airborne attacks, I like this one the most because of the amount of multi-hits and that it doesn't move too much. Now, let's check the effects. With one green reduces the cooldown time by 20%, one blue increases skill damage by 25%, one red adds a falling attack at the end of the skill. So, yeah, not good just because it's a launching skill, as usual. Then we have Chain Vault. Chain Vault is the all green skill. Before we start with the analysis of this, all the three pure color skills are actually good for mixed builds. Usually that's not the case. Maybe some are used, but Rin can use all of her mix of her full color skills on mixed builds, so that you take that into consideration, because they have more utility than most pure color skills. So what does Chain Vault do? It's a hold attack, and it says charges sword with electricity and performs a range attack which splits into 6 strokes of lightning on contact. With 1 green is going to add 4 strokes of lightning on contact. With 2 green, electrocutes the enemy, and with 3 green increases critical rate by 50%. So a couple things to take into consideration. Number 1, as you can see here, Rin is mostly a melee attacker. She has 2 skills which are considered range. One is actually mixed, but most of the damage is range. So what happens here in this one is that it synergizes with critical green, but it doesn't synergize with melee green. Even so, you can use it on melee green just to get the extra critical rate. An electrocute, for those who do not know, is a kind of debuff that reduces the enemy's defense and also inflicts damage once it wears off. Now, Volt Spin. Volt Spin is the dash attack that performs a charge attack spinning toward the enemy. The AoE on this is just like you see, it's a circle, not a sphere. So that means that you're not hitting on the sides. But usually enemies get in front or behind you, so they're gonna be hit. With 1 green, this procs on the main. With the main green, restores HP by 5% and gives damage. Giving damage. This is the best effect on this one. I mean, the HP recovery is just too valuable, and unfortunately, this is the only means of HP recovery on her kit. That's one thing that I would like to see change. When they make her renewal, I would like Gremory to do 2 things: to adjust Volt Spin and Volt Whip. For Volt Spin, I would like the HP recovery to be a main part of the effect, if possible. I mean, I know it would be broken, but it's really difficult for all the other builds to keep alive in certain situations. Mostly you don't need to, because you deal enough damage, but it feels better to just have the option to recover HP. So, as I was saying, the main blue is going to electrocute the enemy. This is fine. It is the second best effect because you're able to increase your damage with this, and with the main red stuns the enemy. This is for PvP and it's not useful on PvE, so keep that in mind. Taimanin art, Volt Sword. So this is the basic enhancer. Enhances normal attacks by covering the sword with electric current and increases the attack range. Mainly that's about it. You have a bigger AoE. With one supporter increases damage by 10%. With two supporters increases damage by 20%, by an additional 20%. And with three supporters increases particle charge amount by 50%. This is pretty good, but I didn't use it on any of the builds that I prepared. This is a splashable skill. You can put it whenever you don't feel that the other skills work. So it is good, but I didn't use it. Then we have Denki. Denki is the perfect evade. After an extreme dodge, increases speed and forms an electric barrier for 8 seconds. With two electric barrier gives you super armor and defense for range attacks. Melee attacks do not get the damage reduction or the super armor. It's for melee attacks you receive. Okay, so with 2 green reduces the cooldown time by 20%. Acceptable. It is good to be able to proc this skill more often. With 2 blue increases the duration by 20%. It is kind of the same as cooldown reduction, but it is better on blue to have this because it synergizes with Kana. And with 2 red increases damage dealt by 20% for 10 seconds. That's definitely the best effect, but it is not something you should avoid on other colors. It's actually another splashable skill. If you're not using Taimanin art or you don't want to use any other skills, Denki is pretty good. Another thing to take into consideration with Denki. Denki works to proc effects that require skill activation, yes. For example, if I'm not mistaken, very quickly, let's go with this one. I think we're hiring. When using a skill, speed increase by 6%. So that would proc on Denki. But if you're using Denki, you are missing one slot that could be used for a damaging skill that would receive a benefit from a supporter like Fuma Yukina. Increases skill damage by 40%. So it is something to take into consideration. Keep in mind what kind of a skill, what kind of supporter you are equipping when using Denki, if they synergize or not with it. Now, Volt Whip is the all red skill. This is a whole debate, and it says, lengthens the whip sword on the back and performs a series of attacks on the enemy ahead. So this is pretty good. It is probably her strongest skill for red or mixed builds with red. It says reduces damage taken by 50% during attacks. This unfortunately also needs a little bit of super armor. That's the only adjustment I would do other than Volt Spin recovering HP. Because I, on the test runs, got interrupted more than once before I was able to actually deliver any of the hits. I got hit while preparing to do this, and then the skill didn't activate and the cooldown was up. So keep that in mind. And Gremory, please do something about it. Add super armor here on effect 1. Effect 2, set 2, red, electrocutes the enemies. You know, defense reduction is going to be excellent. It is an added benefit to have a debuff on the enemy that also increases your damage. And set 3 increases skill damage by 150%. It is pretty good for red. I mean, you know that red is pretty explosive. So even if it's just 150% is more than enough. Volt Rush is a hold attack during normal attacks. This is unfortunately the 3 set, requires a 3 set supporters of the same color to activate. And it says quickly performs a series of attacks on nearby enemies. Adds 2 additional attacks when the skill slot is applied. The 2 additional applies do not matter that much. I mean, it is good, but what really matters is that you have a big AoE attack. And with 3 green is going to increase damage by 25% for 15 seconds. Pretty good, pretty good. With 3 green increases enemy's speed by 30% for 10 seconds. Also pretty good. 30% is a big number, and 10 seconds is also a big duration. Lastly, we have the 3 red skill effect. Increases attack range by 30%. Not negligible, I will tell you that. The main appeal of this skill is that you're doing an AoE attack, and that's gonna eliminate waves of enemies. That's why the attack range isn't something that you should disregard. Now, let's see Electric Volt. Blue is definitely the weakest color for Urehara Ring, but it doesn't mean that it's unusable. It just requires very specific supporters for very specific scenarios. Because of the how the color works more than anything. The skill itself is pretty good. It says, cover herself with lightning and runs around performing an area attack that causes damage over time. This is a whole debate, and as you can see, with 1 blue, it says, pulls the enemy towards characters while attacking. This is going to constantly gather the enemies in front of you, and as you can see, the area is going to deal damage consistently, so it interrupts the actions of the enemies. Increase the duration by 50% with 2 blue, and with 3 blue increases critical damage by 250%. Honestly, the last effect you're not going to use that much, so blue doesn't support crit, like generic crit. It supports range crit for the most part. I think there is one for critical rate against buffed enemies, which would work on BR, but BR is it has critical rate reduction. So yeah, ignore the last one. It happens and you take advantage of it when you have the enchanted weapon. That's about it. So, Soaring Swallow. Immediately after attack, do an evade. This is the kind of skill that I don't like, because even though it says 4 seconds, you actually need to finish an attack. You do the whole basic combo and then you do Soaring Swallow. You have to do a skill, you do Soaring Swallow, and then you have to wait for the cooldown of the skill to use once again Soaring Swallow. So, yeah, you can use it after every attack. So this. But the duration, the cooldown duration is an illusion. It's longer than it seems. Teleport behind the enemy and launches a surprise attack. It is good for positioning, that I will tell you. With 2 green, reduces the enemy's speed by 20% for 8 seconds. This is the best skill, the best effect among all of them. If you want to use it on green, it's pretty acceptable. With 2 blue, increases skill damage by 50%. It means the skill damage of this specific skill is not a buff, because it doesn't have the duration. And with 2 red, increases critical rate by 30%. Again, on the skill, not a buff, because it doesn't have duration. Last, we have Volt Hook. Volt Hook is a double evade. It is the awakening skill on level 81, and it says pierces the enemies with the whip sword and pulls them. Attack range increase when a slot effect is applied. So it procs on 2, with 2 green makes the enemy groggy, which is good on PvP, but on PvE is not. 2 blue increase damage by 20%, something that you really don't want. I mean, it's not that good, especially because if you are going to grab the enemy and pull it towards you, you want some other kind of benefit like stunning, debuff, or something like that. And 2 red reduces the enemy speed by 20% for 10 seconds. This is what you want to use. A notable thing about Rin is that she can inflict speed reduction with all colors, with Bolt Rush blue, Soaring Swallow green, and Bolt Hook red. Keep that in mind, guys. It's pretty good. Now, we're gonna start actually with VR, because if not, I already recorded this video, but the last part, all the mixed builds, I did them with the human Magatamas on the last stage. So yeah, on floor 75 of tower, which are demons, so it wasn't optimal. So I'm gonna re-record this. Here I'm using my classic Emily and Murasaki. If you want to check those, check any video with them against Mask Taimanin. But we're gonna focus right now on Rin. What does Rin have here? She is going to have the PvP weapon on most builds, and it is plus 13. The other weapon is the pack weapon, the limited character pack weapon, which is plus 15, but it's only 3 copies. We'll analyze the weapons effect at the end. Here I'm using human Magatamas, of course. I'm using I'm going to change Denki, and I'm going to explain why specifically later, but I'm going to change it for since it's blue, I guess I'll use Volt Rush. Yeah, I'll have to use Volt Rush, specifically on this stage. So what? Volt Rush, Volt Spin, and Electric Volt. Since I'm on VR, you can equip Fumamane, Onigumo, or Mido Haruka, depending on the kind of VR that you're tackling. I use Kana. The idea is to use Denki to get the buff and get more damage with Kana. Unfortunately, that is not going to work on this specific stage because it's Mass Taimanin and I'm using a slow strategy, so the enemy is not going to attack, is not going to move, so I won't need to use the the perfect evade. That's why I'm not using this. If you can replace Kana in this specific composition, it would be better, but I really don't have many options that increase my damage, and I'm gonna get a buff thanks to Emily. And here, Arabella is going to increase my damage against bosses, and that's why we're using it. So it can work. Let's see. So Denki is an option, but we cannot use it on this specific stage with this specific strategy. Let's see. I forgot how to play. I do this. Okay. I forgot the commands because I've been playing with Rin for a while, and there's a bunch of commands that she uses, so I have them all in my head. Okay. Volt Spin to increase damage. Volt Rush. There. Pretty easy, you see? So she is just a damage dealer that increases the damage of the party thanks to her electrocute. It is not like the best build for damage, but it can work, definitely. Now we're gonna check the other blue builds, starting very quickly with this one. This is the defensive blue. For the defensive blue, Same weapon, same Magatamas, but we are using Volt Spin, Denki, and Electric Bolt. Now we're using Denki. We are still using Kana to take advantage of Denki and increase damage with the buff. We are using Shisui to get an invincibility. And we are using Akina to get HP recovery. Pretty good, pretty good. Now, let's test her out very quickly. Let's see. So when using this build, what can you do? You have to use Electric Volt and then Volt Spin. You can also do it the other way around. You can use Volt Spin and then Electric Volt. But, the advantage of using first Electric Volt is that you get to gather the enemies, and now that they're gathered, you can just attack them all together. And Electric Volt is going to continuously deal damage to the enemies. That's why it's efficient to actually use Volt Spin after the Electric Volt. Let's see. Move. Yeah. So Electric Volt, Volt Spin, and the Denki is only to increase my damage with Kana. And you can use the invincibility if you are under 50% of HP or if they are annoying. For example, now I'm going to use it just to deal that. There. It's so that they don't interrupt you. That's the main appeal of invincibility with Reharin, because she can get interrupted pretty easily. Now we're gonna test the other blue. I don't have the space, so very quickly I change the custom just to showcase them all. We're gonna use, who was it? The first one. Let me see. Kana is still there. The other one was Nanase, which can be used here. And the other one, who was the one that I wanted on this build? Human Asagi. Yes, it was Human Asagi. So what's the synergies here? Instead of using Volt Spin, instead of using Deki, we're gonna use Volt Rush. Why here? Because you're going to proc the effects with the debuffs that it provides. The effects of Nanase. She has a chance. If we had something better, I would put something better, but it's what I have. Nanase is going to give more damage when hitting debuff enemies, but it's a chance-based effect. It's not great, but in this specific build, it's okay because Asagi is going to give speed to Rin on melee attacks. So I'm gonna be attacking fast, and that means that I have more chances to proc the extra damage of Nanase. That's why I'm using this, because it has the synergy, but it is not great. If you have something better, use something better. But right now, at the moment, there's not many options for blue for Rin. Yet, probably in the future we'll have more. Now, let's test this. Volt Rush, Volt Spin, Electric Bolt. Yeah. So the main appeal of blue is the control that you have on the enemy. The speed reduction, the increased duration of the buff so that Kana gives you more damage. What else? The ability to gather the enemies with the vortex, as you can see. It is pretty good. And the combo is, of course, Electric Volt, then you use Volt Spin, and to finish you use Volt Slash. And she's pretty fast, as you can see. Pretty fast thanks to Asagi. So, this, and now reposition. Oh, no. Reposition and... No, I couldn't do it. Okay, one more time, one more time. I do this, this, and Volt Rush. There. That's it. That's the combo. Pretty good, pretty good. Nice. So yeah, that's how you play with blue, which is her weakest color. But even so, it is not weak. It's just that the supporters don't synergize as well as the other supporters. That's the only thing. I'm using very specific supporters which help her out. There are some others, you know, the melee supporters that also work, but they are not optimal. And there's also Su's supporter. Unfortunately, the main drawback about this is that you lose stacks when attacked. If it didn't have that, it would be an actual good supporter, because it gives you defense against a specific trait, but even so, it gives you defense, it gives you damage, and it breaks super armor. So it is not bad, but it has a big drawback in losing the stacks. Well, now let's test out other colors. And we're going to start with... no, green no. Let's go with red. Red is really, really, really strong. For this one, as you can see, we're going to use Mizuki Shiranui, New Year Mizuki Shiranui, Yukina, and Stella. Both of them, all of them, 5 out of 5. And in this one, you can replace Shiranui with different things. Limited things are better because they have very specific synergies that you really want on this one. You can use Shizuru to increase Denki's duration, because we're going to use Denki. You can use the character release limited supporter for Shizuru. That's also viable because it increases your critical rate, and you're going to debuff the enemy easily. And you can use White Feather Asuka. White Feather Asuka, it's good on her, but I do not recommend that you use it on VR if you're not piloting Rin, because she wants to use Denki to get the damage increase, and that's not going to proc White Feather Asuka, because you need to deal a hit, not just an activation of a skill. So we're using Denki for the damage increase, we're using Volt Rush because it's a big AoE, and we are using Volt Whip. The combo is Denki, Volt Whip, and then Volt Rush. Unfortunately, because I already tested this, they are not going to survive the full combo. In fact, they may die before I just with Volt Whip. So I have to do this again with Asuka so that I reduce my damage a little bit. So come on, here. And as you can see, oh, nice. So like this, that's the combo. I mean, they didn't get in the way of the skill, and that's why they survived. But that's what you do. Let's see, Denki, Volt Whip, and if you decide to come, that is. Yeah, the basics are not as powerful because all my damage comes from skills with Yukina. Let's see. One more time, come on. There. Let's see, can I do the combo? I can do the combo because they didn't position properly. That's the reason. But if you position the enemies properly, you can finish them with Volt Whip. And you can further increase your damage with the active of Shiranui. Yeah, it was very fortunate that I was able to show you this. So I don't need to do another run with the same setup, but using Asuka. As I mentioned, Asuka is very good, but pilot Rin yourself if you're going to do that. If you don't have the limited options, another good option would be to use... you can use Tachibana. No, Tachibana no. Melt. You can use Melt. She's going to give you more damage and buffs. And this build relies heavily on buffs. So yeah, she's kind of the red Kana. I never use her, but because I haven't enchanted her, but she is viable. Now, the other red. Now, I need to check my phone very quickly to see the builds, because unfortunately we don't have enough slots for this. So, red, red, red. The other red. So, the one with Asuka, which we're skipping. But believe me, it is exactly the same as this one, but just replacing Asuka. Here we're gonna use... We're gonna use Spica along with the classic Susune Kirara. Christmas Kirara and Susune. There you are, Susune. Okay. So for this one, we're using, obviously, we're gonna change Denki for Volthook. You don't need to, but you can. The main appeal here is to use, wait a moment, Volthook, Volt Rush, Volt Whip. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it differently. Volt Rush is usually the main... let me explain. You can do this in two ways. The main way to inflict debuffs is with Volt Whip. So you're going to hit the enemy and you're going to deal a lot of damage and they're going to get electrocute. Volt Hook is just a guarantee in case they didn't get into the AoE. But we use Volt Rush as our secondary main damage dealing skill. These two are the main damaging skills. You deal a lot of damage. So if you don't kill them with Volt Whip, you use Volt Rush. But I'm going to change that. I'm going to change it to Denki. So that this, I just Denki, I Volt Whip, and if someone is alive, I Volt Hook and I do basic attacks. So that way I have more control. But if you have a stage, if you're facing a stage with multiple enemies, it's better to use Volt Rush. Volt Rush, yes. So very quickly I just position myself, and as you can see, there's a lot of damage. And there is one enemy that survives, so now I can deal a decent amount of damage thanks to Volt Hook. If not, I would not deal as much damage. Let's see. There. Position yourself properly. Volt Hook. Volt Hook is pretty good for those moments when the AI of the enemy is not working and they just don't get into the attack range. So yeah, I prefer it this way instead of using Volt Rush. Because you get consistency. And that's the combo. Okay, I'm going to put invincibility here. Just so that I can attack the enemy without getting interrupted. And now, there. Using Volt Whip, I was able to destroy everyone. Pretty good, right? Now, let's go with green. If I'm not mistaken, it's the next one. Yeah, because the other ones in the cell phone are mixed. So for green, we are going to start with... Let's go with this one. Both are kind of limited. Let's see. We're using Soaring Swallow to get speed reduction, Volt Spin to get HP, Chain Volt to get electrocute on the enemy. Chain Volt is not going to get the benefit of the damage increase because these are melee supporters, but it is a strategy, and the main benefit is the electrocute. That's what you want to increase your damage. Now, Heaviko here can be replaced. It doesn't need to be on the main. She can actually be on a sub slot if you have her. But what's the appeal of using Heaviko? It says increases damage by 20% and reduces damage taken by 20% at 10 seconds interval. So this is a really good supporter for a character who inflicts damage and restore a percentage of that damage. That's excellent. And Rin is one of those, because you reduce your damage and increase your damage. So it makes her tanky and also gives her more damage in intervals. Also, this is pretty good for Rin because Rin is specialized on debuffing the enemy. It's a main damage, it's a damage dealer who can debuff the enemy. So you're going to constantly have the enemy inflicted with poison. And that's about it. That's the main appeal of this one. Yeah, the skills, the weapon, everything is the same. So let's test her. I have to check the time because I'm about to go to work. And let's see. So what's the combo? We do this. Volspin can be at the end, but remember to use Soaring Swallow at the end of your attacks. I'm using Soaring Swallow, right? Yeah, I'm using Soaring Swallow. Which I am pretty bad at using Soaring Swallow. That's why I never use it. Those kinds of attack in general. So let them gather. There. Nice. It is pretty good. And Vault, what's the name of the skill? Vault. Chain Vault. Chain Vault is good, but what you want to do is that you want enemies to gather, and after positioning yourself, you hit them. And I know that people are not enthusiastic about bleed or poison, like they are not good effects, but they are actually not something that you should forget. They are pretty good because the main idea of these games is to reduce the HP of the enemy, and they accelerate that process without you noticing. So you're gonna beat the enemies faster than you think. It's also an enabler for effects like Susune, like Minasaki, like Orisaki Kirara. So yeah, that's another thing to take into consideration. The last pure color is going to be the limited character pack. For the limited character pack, we're using Orihara's Rin's limited weapon. We're going to check that at the end of the video. We're using Volspin, Volt Rush in this case, and Chain Bolt. Volt Rush is to get a damage increase. So the combo would be to do, let me check, Chain Bolt, Volt Rush, and then Volt Spin. And that's gonna restore a lot of them, a lot of HP. We're going critical because we're using this one. This increases critical rate and it also increases speed and it increases damage depending on the number of enemies. On a stage like this, it is pretty good. And it also puts the electric shield on the active. Then we're using the classic combo of Suruga and Kowaru, but you can equip other green supporters. She already has good critical. You can use Nano, you can use the Tree Founding, you can use Lefria, you can use Akane. You know, if you want that, whatever you want to use is fine, but try to focus on crit on this build. In my opinion, crit green is one of her strongest builds. So let's test this one very quickly. For this, let's see if I do the combo right. I let them gather while I charge, and then I do this, and there, like that. Damage increase, HP restoration. Okay. Come on. Like that. I love the AoE of Volt Rush. It is pretty good. Okay, one more time. But the idea is to gather them. And now... Ugh, that's the problem with Rin. She needs more super armor. Just a little bit more super armor. Okay. No. Okay. I'm going to reposition myself. Electrocute. I'm gonna use the mob. No. Okay. There. Nice. As you can see, there's nothing to worry about even if you get hit or such or interrupted because you have the HP recovery to just uh, fight forever. Now, let's see. The next one. We're gonna start checking mix builds. Mix builds. Let's see. But I'm going to load this so that I put the Magatamas and weapon back in order. So starting with actually, yeah, starting with the poison build. We're gonna use Volt Spin, yes, Volt Hook, and Volt Whip. Volt Hook, Volt Whip. So what's the idea here? To have HP recovery while also inflicting debuffs with this, because we're going a mixture of green and red. For this one, we're gonna use Minasaki. Where are you, Minasaki? Here. We're gonna use Minasaki and Susune. You can equip different things depending on what you want to do. The advantage of using these two is that your basics are also going to deal a good amount of damage. But let's say that you don't have one of those. You can equip Christmas Kirara, that's one. You can also equip, where are you, Christmas Kirara? Here. You can also equip Yukina, but that's gonna limit your damage on the basics and it's gonna focus on the skills. You can use Stella. That's better because it's like damage to all. And yeah, that's also Gal Lilim. It's an option if you want. I mean, I never take her into consideration because we have Kirara and Susune, but she is good. She is definitely good. Now, I'm gonna change the costume again so that I showcase more costumes. And yes, yes, yes. Everything in order, so let's do it. This is strong. Really strong, and I mean it. You're gonna see just how strong this is. Because you can constantly inflict the debuffs on the enemies, and that's going to destroy them. Because you inflict the... what's the name? You inflict the bleed and the poison on the enemy, and that allows you to gain the damage increase on Minasaki and Susune. And also you have the attack buff, which is not like permanent. It alternates between one and the other, but it is pretty good. And whenever you need HP recovery, you just do that. Ball hook. A spin. I'm going to wait for the skills. And here. Oh, come on! You see why I say that we need super armor on that skill? I mean... oh, God. She just needs a pinch of super armor. A pinch, I mean it. Because if she gains super armor just at the beginning of the skill, then she's gonna deal enough damage to break the super armor of the enemy or at least inflict the debuff. Let's see. Now, the next one is going to be green blue. This is a tanky build. We're using okay, we're not using this. I originally used it with Juno, but we're gonna change that. But first I'm gonna put the blue. For blue we use Akina, of course, because HP recovery, and Asagi because increased HP. That's the main appeal of Asagi. But here I'm gonna change this for something that gives me more damage. Try to use something like the Founding Tree. The Founding Tree would be a good option. Fumasaika would be a good option. Nano would be a good option. Let's see, what else? Don't go for crit or... well, Suruga is okay among the crit. Actually, I'm gonna use Suruga. Why? I said, I used originally this one. That's what I'm gonna use then. I'm gonna use Tokiko. Why I say not crit? Because we're not supporting crit right now. Suruga is fine because she gives crit rate along with crit damage. That's why she is specifically fine. But Lefria or I don't know others, no, I do not recommend. So we're gonna do this because she makes me tanky by reducing critical rate on the enemy. She also increases damage against super armor, and she guarantees crits and increases the critical damage. That's why we're using her. So, skills, yes. For skills, we're using Denki to get the increase duration. Let me check. It says Denki, Volt Spin, yes, and Electric Volt. Let me see. Can we change Denki? Because the speed increase is nice, but let's see. Are there other things? No. No. I see. That's why we are using Denki, because it's kind of like the other skills don't have good effects that proc with blue. So if you don't want to use Denki, you can actually use the Taimanin art. I'm not going to use the Taimanin art. I'm keeping Denki. So that's why. This is probably the weakest among all of the combinations, but it is available if you want to make her a tank for some reason. You're gonna have, and besides, it's better for the tank role if you equip, what's the name? If you equip, yes, So, this skill, the blue skill, Electric Volt, is good for control because you're gonna be dragging the enemies into the center of the skill, and that's why I decided to go for damage with character release supporter Fuma Tokiko, because as you can see, I don't have enough damage. I mean, I hit consistently, I do a lot of damage, but it's just not enough to kill the enemy. I mean, after all, this is a tanky build, so it is something to take into consideration. You just have too much HP and HP restoration. That's what makes her such a tank. Okay? So, now I activate Tokiko and I activate my skills. Volt Spin. One more time. There. Yeah, definitely viable because they're not going to kill you, but you're gonna take time to kill them. If you don't have another combination of supporters, you can use this one for sure. It will allow you to clear the stage, and it's pretty safe. And besides, you're probably going to proc. You're going to proc the supporter twice. Just because, I mean, the enemies last that long. I'm gonna wait for the cooldown reduction, and there. So, I use this. And there we go. Nice. Yeah, the crit, the guaranteed crit along with the crit damage increase, it's very good for her in the damage department, because this build is kind of lacking in strength. Now, the blue one, the blue main along with red. We're gonna use who? Susune, and Yukina, come on, Yukina. There, Yukina. So for this one, what are we doing? We're gonna get increased speed thanks to this, and we're gonna debuff the enemy with Volt Spin. We're also using Volt Whip, and we're using Denki to get damage increase. This is extremely risky. I mean, it is good, yes, but I don't recommend it for challenging content unless you have Felicia or a dedicated healer, because you're not going to heal in any way, shape, or form. So keep that in mind. It deals a ton of damage, but it's risky. Okay? I mean, very risky. Yeah, because not even the supporters have some way of HP recovery. Let's see. I just need to do this, and I do this. You can do any combination that you want, but usually the combination would be to use, let's see, Denki, and then you use Volt Whip, and then you use Volt Spin. Yeah, the damage is not as good because blue doesn't have good damaging supporters, but you could substitute Asagi for Kana because we are using a build that relies on buffs. Let's see very quickly. We avoid, we do Volt Whip, we do Volt Spin, and that's it. And after that, you could use the active of your supporter, but I'm not using the active for the most. Oh, I got interrupted. You saw? Oh my god! And I got stuck. No, come on, no. Okay, I'm using the active. Okay, that was dire. My god. Yeah, that was like not ideal, and the only reason why I used the supporter, but I was able to stun the enemies. And Asagi's supporter is actually pretty good. I didn't mention that synergy. Asagi's supporter is going to reduce the speed of the enemy by 20% on the active. And you can pair that on blue with with Volt Rush to get a 50% speed reduction. It is excellent. Okay, so that's about it for the builds. Now let's see very quickly. Are there any other supporters that you want to use on this one? Honestly, this one can work, yes, but I do not recommend it. I mean, the HP increase is nice. The attack increase when below 50% HP is not that nice because you have too much HP recovery with green. So you're just going to do, well, let's say that you get under 50%. You're going to deal more damage and you're going to recover more with Volt Spin. Yes, that's the only advantage, but it's pretty niche in my opinion. Not good. Generic good for against humans. Obviously good because it's her own limited supporter, but it's just another variant of Nagi. And this is the supporter that I was missing, that electrocutes. So yeah, electrocuting is pretty good. But as you saw, Rin normally electrocutes by herself and is very consistent at that role. So there's no need for that one. But you can use it. Chikage is also a good supporter that you can use on her. Especially if you're using the basic enhancer and Denki. On red it would be amazing for a basic. No, but she's green. I mean, on green she is also amazing. Besides, green and red are pretty good for electrocuting. So yeah, it is an option if you want. No. Those three, no. So keep those supporters in mind. And let's check very quickly her weapons. Her weapons, unfortunately, fortunately I guess, are shared with Nagi. So let's see them. This is the pack weapon, which is pretty bad. This is the pay to win weapon, which is busted. This is the character exclusive weapon. So this one increases skill damage by 13% and deals damage with the active and increases speed by 10% for 10 seconds. The particle amount is pretty big. I don't like that. The effect, I do like the speed increase, even though it's small. And the damage increase on skills, I also like, but it's also like not super big. So it is usable if you don't have anything else. Go with this one. Arena weapons, you know the arena weapons. We have the Momochi weapon. Momochi weapon is pretty viable for green, mostly. I mean, you can do it in red if you have certain critical rate supporters, but I do not recommend this on red. It's better for green, definitely. And also, you know that this stops working when you start doing VR. Then we have this one. This one is the character pack weapon for Momochi Nagi, but this works with Rin. It says all after all. Melee attacks have a 20% chance of increasing damage dealt to all enemies by 15% and reduces damage taken from them by 15% for 5 seconds. Range attacks have a 30% chance of snaring the target for 4 seconds. So all of these effects actually do work with Rin, and I love the skin, it is pretty cool. It is very unfortunate that there are some disadvantages. Number 1, the stats are lower than any other weapon. Number 2, you need to use 4 nanomachines, no, 4 demonites on this weapon if you want to S5 it. So it is not viable. I mean, it just, you need too many resources to make it usable, and it even doesn't even have good stats. It has lower stats, so it's a shame. If you have it, it's just a skin, and it's a pretty good skin, but that's about it. This one is for Momochi Nagi, so we're gonna skip it. This one, the SR that increases damage against super armor. This one, Fragarak, okay. So, it says, passive. When using a skill, Chain Vault has a 40% chance to reset the cooldown time of a skill except Chain Vault. Okay, so you have more chances to deal more damage. So, it is kind of weird because usually you want to use Chain Vault first and then you want to use the other skills. But as the stage progresses, as the level progresses, you're going to see that the timing of the skills is going to be all mixed out. So it is an effect that is going to plague every now and then, and it's cool. But with the active, it says when Chain Vault is used, within 5 seconds, its damage increased by 100%. Nice, it becomes a better damaging skill than it already is because it's good for AoE damage. And the chance of resetting the passive skills becomes 100%. And it's only on 3 particles. It is pretty good, but you want to constantly use the active. I never use it. I try to avoid using the active, relying on them, but this is definitely one of the best actives in the game. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with the typical supporters, which enhance damage of actives. Let's see, where is the green girl? The one with the umbrella. This one says increases damage of weapon skills. This is not a weapon. Yes, it is a weapon skill, but it is not a weapon attack. It's a weapon effect. So I don't think, don't call me on that, but I don't think that it works on that weapon, which would be cool. So yeah, now just to finish a quick assessment on Rin. Rin is a pretty good character. She is broken, really broken. She has sustain, she has control, she has ways to inflict debuffs. She's pretty good. As you can see, all the colors are viable. Blue is the weakest, but not because it's weak on this character. It's just because the options available for her on the supporter department are very limited. Blue mostly supports Protect, Demon. So that's the problem here. Protect, Demon, as you can see. You can use Murasaki actually, but it doesn't have any particular benefit. So yeah. Regarding the weapons, whichever weapon you have with her is fine. As you saw, I was doing Arena. And you don't see the other ones because I have them on Momochinagi. But definitely the character pack weapon is pretty good for those who are green build enthusiasts. So keep that in mind. She is definitely worth the investment if you want to use the gems or the resources, because she's good for PvP, she's good for challenging content, she can do dailies, but the best option is always to do a auto farm. But she can do dailies effectively thanks to her big AoE attacks. So yeah, I do recommend that you get her if you can. So that's about it, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye!